All right, so this is the low impact version of this workout of the week, which is all about kettlebell swinging, but we're not going to be doing much swinging today. So foundation training might be mad, but we're going to steal a lot of their stuff today. All right. So this is wrap and squeeze. Guys, I'll give you this one here, so you got something. Don't need the kettlebell, just a little feedback. We're wrapping and squeezing, let those hips spiral inwards. Just take a minute to breathe. So hands in measuring stick hands, elbows wide. Stiffening the spine, pulling the shoulders down, lengthening the neck. These are loose, they're unlocked. Hips are wrapping and squeezing. You should feel these hip flexors when we're breathing. The muscles we want working in the backswing, which is when we are hinged, just like we're doing in the founder. Right now, just don't go there, I'm just talking about it. We should feel them at the start. We don't have to get in the hinge to feel these muscles. I'm pulling my head back so my weight feels like it's on my heel. That's why I like the kettlebell here, because I can actually hold on a little bit. Allow myself to go back a little farther than I could without it, so I don't fall backwards. I'm going to work with a 10-pound kettlebell, but 35, you're probably not going anywhere. It's a good anchor. It's a good anchor for your anchor. Look at that. Anchoring the diaphragm, pulling it down. That's the tough part for people. Pulling the front of the ribcage down. Even me just helping a little bit. I feel like a tug in my back. My QL muscles attach. Because they're just always crunching these joints down. So we're trying to breathe those facets open. That's what we want in a kettlebell swing. We don't want to be an extension. We want to maintain a little rounding, a little bit of flexion. That keeps the spine open as we go into the hinge. Let's try 10 of those now. All the way up. Big breath in. Breathe, stabilize. Let the hips do the work. Pulling behind you, little spiral at the end, staying in measuring stick hands. Should feel a little burn where the hip flexor wraps in and attaches on your femur. Big inhale, continue that inhale as we hinge. Pressing, and squeeze those muscles in the back of our legs, come stand. Goal of your day is slow this swing motion down. And we'll keep building on that. So Saturday we'll build, we'll pick up a kettlebell, and Tuesday we'll go crazy. Check that out. Just 2 minutes of that should really free up this spine. Right? That's where you feel. Back of the diaphragm here, we're opening that up. One more piece we'll talk about is the neck. A lot of people, when they're swinging, head goes into extension. You don't want that. We want to keep that neutral spine. So just like we're walking, talk about, we had a class earlier today, a soda can. If it's empty and I step on it, it collapses. But it's pressurized, full of soda, I step on it, I can probably handle all my 180 pounds. That's what we're doing down here. It's also in the neck. Filling up that cylinder from your diaphragm, your pelvic floor, filling up space, not just in the front, wide, in the back, protecting that spine so we're not whipping our low back as we go to the swing. Even in a founder, something slow, if we're not stabilizing, that can start working against your SI joints and your spine too. Same thing with the neck. Breathing, opening up. There's a little diaphragm here with all these muscles from the collarbones to the spine. We can fill up as well. Stiffen that neck. So when we hinge, watch my neck. I'm looking down at the ground, fighting to keep that back of the neck long, pulling my chin back, keeping my chest up. You can see it on your MRI. You're going to have MRI at home. Look at the muscles on the back of the spine. There's 3 groups there. I always remember because I love spines. That's how I remember things in college. So outer, we got the iliocostalis. Costalis means ribs. So from all this thoracolumbar fascia all the way up to the ribs, all the way up here. Then we got longissimus all the way up, and then the spinalis runs right on the spine, deep, all the way to the neck. Probably not the iliocostalis, right? Because it goes to the ribs, but we are going all the way up to that first rib. So we're getting that big posterior chain to work. Everybody's always looking at your discs and your bones on the MRI. I'm the guy that's looking at the muscles that no one pays attention to. Well, that side's smaller than the other side. So we're trying to do here. We're trying to strengthen, pull those bones back into place, using the muscles as long levers. That helps my thinking. I'm thinking about adjusting my spine with my breathing. Want more motivation? Be your own chiropractor. Let's try that again. We'll do another 10. Still stay in the measuring stick hands. I know you're getting tired. But just think about the neck now too. Pull that back of the skull long. Big inhale as we hinge. Just go to where it feels stretch. It's so away. Squeeze the glutes, come back up. Just breathing. Didn't miss much. Big inhale. Turn those feet in a little bit. That's going to help us. As we hinge, the femurs continue to spiral. Wrap and squeeze. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the hamstrings, drive them up. Drive your heels into the ground. Squeeze the glutes at the top there. Drive the head back. Keep going. Do a few more. Give Sue a kettlebell here. Just holding on to the kettlebell with their feet. Especially in this standing position, it allows me to pull my weight back a little bit more and I can hold on to the kettlebell. Really setting that up. When the legs are closer here, yeah, we can't hinge as deep, but that's okay. Probably even better. Some of us, when we hinge, it's more of a back bend. And you're in the way down here, like, I guess I feel my hamstrings. No, you should feel them before we even start. After pressing in, getting tall, I let the knees unlock and I wrap and squeeze right there. I'm feeling my upper hamstring stretching. And I'm building on that stretch. It was really good to feel it at the start. My hip just popped. Rotate it in. Sometimes you get that. Nice, because they're spiraling in. They're fighting against all these muscles like your piriformis that want to spin your hips out. So we force the hip to work by stabilizing the low back. We're going to break apart all that restriction in the hip socket. And then it'll start gliding better. The humeral head on that labrum is going to be much happier. It's going to want to work. Otherwise, it gets stuck and then your SI joint's like, well, let me do that before we do this. Then disease ensues. All right, shake that off. We lose the kettlebell now. We'll go a little bit wider. So we're going to mimic, this isn't a foundation training move, we're going to mimic a swing. So we'll start here. Let's get nice and tall. Still got our feet forward. This is probably a little too wide for a swing, but everyone's swing's going to be a little different. Getting nice and tall. We're going to go to a sphere. Really push that sphere low. Get your neck nice and long. We're going to keep that sphere tension low as I'm hinging my hips back. I'm trying to get that sphere in between my thighs and squeeze on it. I'm just going to hold that. So I'm not getting super deep, just enough where I can grab and squeeze. And the arms are going to resist that a little bit. I'm pressing out against the squeeze of my legs. You should feel your lats working a little bit to do that. You're spreading your wings. So watch your neck, don't let your head drop. Keep that back of the skull nice and long. And keep pushing the hips back. Do you feel glutes, hamstrings stretching? Spend time under that tension. Squeeze a little bit more with the left. Left hip rolling in. Relax the left. Squeeze a little bit more with the right. Squeeze both thighs rolling in. Hands resisting. Now we're going to squeeze left into left hand. Now I'm just going to reach right hand up a little bit. As I'm reaching right hand up, I can drive the hips back a little bit more. Breathe out. Back to that sphere of tension. Now squeeze your right femur in. Right hand's going to resist it while the left hand reaches. Keep that tension on that lat. You're pressing out. You should feel your lat. Keep that outward push. Don't let the shoulder come forward. Let the hand reach forward, not the shoulder. You'll feel your wing. Good. One more from each side. We'll squeeze left. Most people, it's the left hip that doesn't like to turn it. So squeeze really hard. The left in the left hand. Reach the right. Yeah, we're stretching the lat, but we're also strengthening it. Glute should be on side. Squeeze right femur, right hand, reach the left. Good, back. Let's come out strong, squeeze the glutes. Let's bring our sphere up. So our sphere is going to be our kettlebell. So don't reach the shoulders forward, keep them back, keep the neck long. We're going to go into the hinge. Kettlebell's coming back behind us. We're swinging. Hips roll in at the last second. This is where we should be in our backswing. Your thighs should be in contact with your wrists. Neck is stiff. When I squeeze my glutes, squeeze the back of my legs, I'm pushing my wrists, which swings the kettlebell forward. It shouldn't even come up this high. About here, we're just doing our standard swing. Hinging back. Hips follow. Wrap and squeeze the inner thighs. Squeeze the back of the legs, come up. Pause here for a second. Squeeze your glutes a little bit. Drive your head back. 10 big breaths right here. Don't think reach the hands forward, think push your body back away from that sphere. Should be shaky. Let's rotate the platter, keep everything else good. Platter, sphere. Ladder, open up, roll the thumbs away from each other. Let's do it on the inhale. Inhale, sphere. Exhale, splatter. Forearms almost come together. Keep your collarbones wide. Keep your weight back. You feel this in your neck, getting tired. Good, shake it off. Get some water if you need it. And I'll demonstrate what we're doing next. Not gonna swing it.
I feel it more here.
Might feel on one side more than the other. But yeah, it's, especially there. Like I was going over this with my dad. He was doing a one-legged exercise. And you can see he's so taut to extend. He's like, oh, it hurts, pinching here. I'm like, man, open up.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
We're spreading our, yeah.
Yeah.
We're opening up that whole region. We're spreading the shoulder blades. It's a very different concept. Because that's where we're going to stiffen that spine with. So those lats pull us into extension. So we want to get good tension on them. We got to go wide, get a little round, and pull your diaphragm into your spine. Even here, so pushing my body away from that sphere. I'm breathing, I'm opening up space. So it shouldn't feel like a pinch, it should feel like, ah, it's a big stretch. Filling up the soda can, right? Fill up the back of the soda can, not just the front. Same concept here. So when I'm grabbing onto this kettlebell, we're just going to do the setup, because now we got a bit of an anchor, just like we were squeezing it. So my hands are locked down, I'm pulling my head and neck away. So that should tilt the bell a little bit. And I'm lifting my toes, driving the balls of the feet and the heel into the ground, pulling backwards on that kettlebell. And it's not heavy enough, so you should be about a foot behind the kettlebell. Yeah? So you can pull and drag, stiffen your spine. suffer here for a second. Breathing.
Just
Push. I'm not going to swing it, but when I do swing it, it's the same thing. I'm pulling with my spine. So I initiate the swing by just lifting a little bit more. Don't actually do that, just lift. And that sets the kettlebell in a free fall motion so I can go back into the swing. So let's run through this a few times, just using our hands. So let the kettlebell go. We'll start here. Hinging. Same idea, like the toes are lifting, pushing, driving us deeper. Let's go fists together for now. Squeeze those fists together. Squeeze your glutes. Swing the kettlebell up. I'm inhaling as I'm coming down into the backswing. Filling up the soda can, pressurizing it, driving the hips back. Pressing forward. Keep that neck nice and stiff. Right, go back. This little setup. Your hips hinge back. Reaching back, just breathing. Find that stretch in the back of the legs. Reach the right hand up. Push your hips back a little bit more behind you. Bring it back down. Push. Reach. Everything else is stiff. It's nice. You can go back a little bit farther because the kettlebell is going to keep you from falling backwards. Still try to use your feet though. Like we should almost be able to do this. My feet are holding onto the ground. You can feel the toes down now. It's just initially that helps. We lift our toes, you notice it gets these shin muscles to fire. Giving the camera over here, my butt was off here too. Lifting. Getting these guys to work all the way up. But once you got that going, clamp. It'll help you hold down. Just don't bunch the feet up. Best you can. Grab a hold again, let's do that. Reach the right hand up.
Now, should we be looking at the floor?
Yeah, same thing. That's a neutral neck curve. I don't want to be here because then I'm bending up my neck.
Right.
And that breaks. Right before you came in, we talked about these chain of muscles from your back of your skull all the way. So be a little less tabletop. A little more like, let's see, slightly angled. That's where we want to be. Head should be a little higher than your hips. So watch it from the side. And the reason for the head is the head's dropping. Our spine is, we're tucking our back, flattening our spine. So if I'm pulling my head back, notice as I drop my head back, it creates a little bit of curve there.
Now, should I be feeling a pull in the lower back? Not pain, but like a stretchy pull.
You should feel like you're working these
Yes,
muscles.
right in there.
Should
Right
be
in there.
strengthening. We're using those muscles. If you're pulling and you look fine, you see too much of a tuck. So there I feel like it's stretching.
Okay.
You want the stretch here. So sometimes I can grab myself by my hamstrings and I'll pull up, try to drive, create more butt than there actually is. Because most people when they say like, oh, I don't have a butt anymore, it's not really lost the muscle, it's just you're tucked.
Yeah.
So it disappears and your pants start falling off. You need suspenders. So it's just where we brought, and when the pelvis tucks, because due to the hamstrings being tight, the pelvis shifts forward. That's not just bad because you're losing your pants, but you're putting too much pressure on those where you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those lower facet joints. That tends to be L4, L5, L5S1 are the major surgery areas. So we're trying to strengthen all those. And L5, it's the most rotation, because it's the one your psoas doesn't attach to. It attaches to the 4 above it and the diaphragm. So that one loves to do a lot, not too much. So use the other one strong, really stiffen that area. Don't let that L5 do too much. It's a lot of pressure on that disc. Not the good kind of pressure. Let's forget the kettlebell for a second. Same stance, feet are parallel. Let's take a chance, get nice and tall. That chin back, chest up. Be hitting those muscles we're talking about. Driving my head back. Not so much where the pelvis comes forward, it's pelvis back, head back, ear, shoulder, hip, heel, straight line. It's your plumb line. Keeping that. No hinge. Go to our sphere. So now we're going to mimic a snatch motion. So with the snatch, we're setting up, swinging it overhead. So what we're going to do is one hand's going to stay in contact with the thigh. The right hand, I'm going to trace. Elbows leading the way as I'm coming up. Tracing up the seam of the body. Thumbs in the armpit before I roll overhead where I'm receiving the kettlebell. Keeping everything else nice and stiff. When people do this, they tend to arch and extend the back. So this other hand is reminding us either measuring stick hand is good or like this hand is on that hip. Don't let that hip roll out. Keep pushing into that. Let's trace back down. Same path, really. Thumbs coming in. Tracing back down. Keep that wrist nice and stiff. Even me, my muscle flex. I'm going to lock the wrist. You'll see the same thing with kettlebells. A lot of people, they keep that wrist kind of in this extended position. We're stiffening that wrist. I don't know if you can see that. Keep that nice and stiff. Same idea here. I had a guy today, he's talking about how he's working his hand. His neck and shoulder are feeling better. It's all connected. The wrist is extending, it's going to cause issues up the chain too. Just like issues here will cause stuff down the chain. So I know these little things seem annoying, but work with them. Let's do the other hand now. We're kneeling down here. This exercise we did before, I'm just wrapping and squeezing. Don't go knock knees, it should be the whole hip. Same idea with the wrist. If the knee's bowing in, and you're noticing like this little angle, not good. Everything coming together. So it's not a bow. Let's say maybe a little less bend in the knees there. We want to get our shins vertical. So not angled shin here. Vertical shins. Best as you can. It's never going to be perfect. But you'll notice, oh, I feel it now in the back of the legs. You'll feel these muscles having to squeeze. Just like we were holding on to the kettlebell. So keep pressing back. Your feet are really going to have to hold on to the ground. Just something we'll get naturally in the swing. So I like to teach, a lot of people when they swing, you notice their feet are just rolling in and out a lot. Grab the ground, hold on. Don't let the feet do too much. Same thing when we're doing this founder motion. All right, let's trace the other hand now. I'll shut up. At least about that topic. So thumb, start right here at the hip. As I'm standing, tracing, keeping that wrist as straight as I can possibly get it. It's not going to be perfect. Thumb coming up. Reaching as high as I can get that elbow. Stretch that lat before I roll overhead. Still squeezing this other hand in. Force tight. Trace back down. Hands meet in the sphere of tension. We start from the hinge. The reason we're starting from the hinges is it's going to help us tighten our stomach. Tighten our hip flexors. So as we come up with the right hand, even though I'm standing, I'm still thinking, keep those tight. Keep those tight. Don't let my body go to extension. Don't let my pelvis shift forward. Trace it back down. Nice and slow. Ooh. Big inhale. Fill up that soda can. Left hand going up. Retreat. Spread the fingers. There's something about having a strong grip and spreading the fingers just like we're doing in the sphere that help the shoulder connect to the neck. Stiffens that whole kinetic chain. Let's do one more each side. This is exactly what we do with the kettlebell. Not exactly, but it's very similar. It's not just a straight whoop. Kind of rolling it, keeping it close to my center of gravity. It's just happening very fast. You want that good shoulder range of motion for these snatch type motions. So today, I'm going to try a little bit at the end. We're not going to torture Shirley too much. Good. Let's come out strong. Squeezing the glutes. Fear comes up. We'll go all the way overhead now. This is what we call the American swing. We're going to bring that kettlebell all the way up. The reason I don't like this one, we did it a couple weeks back. As people go up, they tend to arch and extend with the kettlebell, especially if it's really too much. So you might notice you get about forehead level, your spine wants to extend. Just stop right there. Just kind of listen to your spine. It's not about going straight overhead. When I'm here, my ribs are lifted. Do more harm than good. So let's try that one more time. Shake it. And by one more time, I mean like 10 more times. Five. Give me 5.
Well, with a 0.
Let's take a breath here. Let's change it up just to give our legs a little break, a little wider. I don't think I've ever done a swing in this position, but we're not doing kettlebell swings right now, so it's okay. Nice hinge. Usually you can go a little deeper when the legs are wide. You can really get those hips back more. Same concept though, hips are rolling in. Watch those knees. I should be doing this, right? That's not what I want. That's not an anchor. Hold from the hip side. If the knee's fighting, you stay pretty straight. I don't want to go like that. I'm not saying that I saw that.
I saw it from up here. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me.
Just watch the feet too. Make sure facing forward. Let's go here. Wrap and squeeze. Get your wrists on your inner thighs. Push. So we do our American swing. Hips are back. Pretend like you got a 100-pound kettlebell. So you're really reaching way back. When we're lifting something heavy, you have to really get momentum by pulling the hips back. And I push. Keep the core strong. And squeezing the glutes a little bit. Bring that just to where you feel that front of the rib cage start to lift, your abs start to loosen, and come back down. Don't let the abs loosen. Hold, 100-pound kettlebell. Reaching back. I don't think I've ever done a 100-pound kettlebell swing, but this is as good a metaphor. Reaching back. Oh. I've done 88, even that's pretty rough. Big inhale. Even though we're exhaling, still, when I'm exhaling, I'm letting the air out slow. Now I'm tightening down on those abs. I know my body loves this position, loves to extend. Don't let it get there. So you can see it if I'm doing the normal American swing. This is the way I don't like to teach it. It feels good on the shoulders. The problem is, my body just arches too much. So I even kind of drive my head forward, keep my core really tight as I go overhead with this. So really be careful. Don't let your back arch too much. Let's take it down to our backs. Lay it on your back. Now we'll bring the legs. We'll zip up the legs. Legs, inner thighs, wrapping and squeezing. Lengthen them up. Just a tiny little knee bend.
You're supposed to be up or down.
Just a tiny little knee bend. Tiny bend. Wrap and squeeze. Pulling up here. Want to be in a camera shot, Shirley? We're just going to stare at
Don't blow your face.
Just feeling that spiral. 3 inches above the knees. Nice little squeeze. So maybe even a little bit less. Let's go hands underneath our low back to start. You can breathe. Bottom of your rib cage down into your hands. That doesn't mean flatten your low back, just those bottom T11, T12 ribs. Expanding, tightening down the stomach. And we're doing an intra-abdominal breath. It's similar. Intra-abdominal breath is more when we're going to be lifting weight. We are tightening that stomach. When we exhale, we push out pretty fast, and we cinch down, we tighten that core. So let's try a few of those breaths. Nice big inhale. When you exhale, squeeze the abs hard. And one way to help the abs squeeze is just to lift your head, just the hair. Feel your core turn on just a little bit. Stuart McGill has an exercise called the curl up, where he teaches something similar to this. We're adding a foundation training. We're adding our anchor to the hips. The toes are pulling towards us, dorsiflexing, wrapping and squeezing. That's going to help pin the diaphragm down. You're pulling your diaphragm down towards your pelvis. Your abs, your hip flexors, head's lifting. We're not bending from the neck. It's almost like you're doing a crunch, but just from your mid-back. So I got your hands underneath your low back. This is the kind of rounding I'm talking about that's good. I don't round it bad. This rounding, I like. So the heads, we're not doing forward head translation. It's like you're doing a crunch just from your mid-back. So you're still stiffening that neck. Rounding just a little bit. And we do this with the kettlebell when we go into the rack position. And to a point it's happening at the top of the snatch, we're bringing the kettlebell overhead. You feel that stiffness? That mid-back doesn't like to move. I know, I'm slamming on it all day.
No longer we're supposed to keep our head up.
Each breath, just time with the breath. You hold your head up, you get tired. You might even start hurting the neck, so let's give it a little break. It's not used to this. You'll feel the front of the neck. You try to talk, you'll sound all funny. Using those deep little scalene muscles. Scalenes running from your ribs, upper ribs, each little individual bone. I don't think they go all the way up, but I think C3 at least. And that's right, I notice a lot of inflammation. It's mid-neck on C5. People love to hinge the neck from that area. So when we lengthen, we're really locking that C5 area down. A lot of those scalenes in the front really pull too hard. Traps too, traps attaching back to your skull. Really jam down, force that extension. That C5, that'll happen when we're doing these like hinging motions. Deadlifts, kettlebell swings, all the same stuff. Watch the neck, so important. You feeling it yet? Inner thigh should be burning. Shin should be on fire. It's a hard position to hold. Shake it off. Lift the legs, relax. All right, let's do our 8-point plank. Roll over on your stomach. Turn this way. I'll set up on this one first. This is another exercise to add that bit of rounding. So I'm pulling my head up tall, and I'm pulling space, breathing as I'm pushing my elbows hard into the ground. Just that motion alone opens up my mid-back. And I start pushing my knees in, just like my elbows are pushing into the ground. Knees driving into the ground, elbows driving into the ground, head's pulling up, and I'm squeezing. Elbows towards the knees until my pelvis lifts a little bit. It's very shaky, fighting to keep my spine really stiff. And again, when I start to sound funny, you're really using the front of the neck, front of the stomach area. Fight for 5, 6 big breaths here.
You're looking at the mat.
Looking down at the mat. You should be looking in between your elbows. Keep driving the back of the head up towards the ceiling. There you go. I talked about that posterior chain. Running from here all the way down. So if the low back starts hurting,
Yeah.
you might notice, drive the head up more. Push.
But is my back, like, I feel like my lower back is not straight. Like, is my whole spine supposed to be straight?
So
Like, I feel like,
maybe a little too curved in there.
Yeah.
Try and squeeze both knees towards each other. Don't lift the hips too high.
this is hard.
just a little. Same idea with the swing, the head should be higher than the hips because we're really driving the back of the head towards the ceiling. Sometimes we got back pain, go back down to the ground, reset the neck. So as I reset the neck, make sure my elbows are stacked underneath me, pulling my head up really strong, really tall. I don't think lift the hips, I think squeeze elbows like I'm dragging myself along. Squeeze elbows towards my knees and I'm just squeezing. I'm not lifting, I'm squeezing. Breathing. You can try squeezing right knee towards left elbow, right elbow towards left knee. We'll work some different muscles just like we were doing before. We're squeezing one thigh in. We'll probably expose something there. And I like that idea of dragging down on the floor, which engages those lats.
Just up like this far.
You saw it?
Yeah.
You saw me do it. It's not much.
Yeah. Okay.
The breath too. Like I didn't mention, I said breathe after. I breathe. Want to breathe before squeeze and the pelvis starts lifting. That's filling up the soda can. You got low back pain. The breath might be the issue. And also the stabilization from the neck. Getting the neck up is going to help the low back. So there's a lot of pieces to this.
Yeah.
But it exposes, there's a problem. It hurts. It's a problem.
Yep. Yep.
And you might not be ready for this exercise. Go back to the breathing. In fact, let's go back to the breathing. On your knees. This is my go-to. When I'm in pain, I love this kneeling position. I've had a lot of foot problems throughout my life. Just takes it out of the equation. I don't have to worry about what my knees are doing. I don't really worry about what my feet are doing. I just get my feet a little bit wider than my knees. And I just think about wrapping and squeezing. Getting nice and tall. Now I'm thinking about falling forward. Pulling myself out of my toes, into my knees a little bit. Breathing. Should feel really good on the low back. It's really good for people that L5 is starting to shift forward. Sometimes that's called a spondylolisthesis. There's like a break. Part of the spine called your pars, that bone starts shifting forwards. Sometimes you can have that, I know that. It's usually an early developmental thing before your bone becomes bone. You're just a bag of jello. You should really feel your glutes here. Just keep driving your heels wide. Shin muscles still on fire, want those working. Let's go long wing. Or hinge. We're going to do a swing out to the sides. Pressing my arms forward. Hinging back. Pushing the hips forward. Go to sphere, hinge. It's like a mini kettlebell swing. Hands, pinky side, on this part of your thigh, right where your hip is. Rotate thumbs away from you so your palms rotate forward. So we're going to press our hips forward again. Reach out to a platter. Come on back down. Now we're going to switch it up. Let's reach the arms forward, keep the hips back. It's one thing that doesn't happen in the kettlebell swing. But your hips are in the backswing, arms are in the upswing. Some breathing here. On the inhale, sphere. Exhale, flatter. Inhale, sphere. Go back.
So am I doing it wrong, or my low back is just that
You
way?
just don't hinge as much. Try that. How's that feel?
That's better.
What really helps me, and a lot of people have knee pain too when doing this. Push those knees hard to the ground. They're now your heels. So drive those. Push the ground away really hard. Because yeah, we're still gonna have that problem where we love to bend our low back. Push in hard, breathe big. Maybe we're just here to start. You'll start feeling one leg over the other. Let's go left leg forward. Reach that hip behind you. Right arm's coming up. I'm pushing the ground away with my left foot. My left foot's pushing, 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 pushing. And back down. Tricked you. Pushing, pushing, pushing.
Too late, she's up and she's not coming back down. Okay.
We're going there. She's always a step ahead.
Oh, yeah, right.
We're getting that hip to reach back. You notice you'll end up with that vertical shine out here. It's forward. As I pull my hip back, that shin starts becoming more straight. I'm pushing the ground away. I'm talking about like driving your mat towards me. Yep, and you'll feel a stretch in the hamstring. You'll feel the hip flexor working. Now, when I do come up, there is a bit of a pull. But if we're just going to this hinge, I can keep pressing. Pressing. That pull doesn't happen till right here. Where I'm dragging around the other way.
I think it hurts my toes more than anything.
Let's do the other side.
Hurts my legs.
Same setup.
All right.
Should be a burner on the thighs. Hinging back, trying to expose any issues with one side. Feel how this hip feels compared to the other. You should feel a stiffness. I'm pushing this hip back, reaching down with the left hand. Don't overreach when you start feeling your low back. That's not the goal. See this C shape through my spine? We don't want that. Big chest. Trying to keep a little bit curved my low back. That's when I feel the hip. If I C shape, I don't really feel it as much. You lose the tension here too. So just go up, pushing the ground away, and down. Nice and soft. So you're continually driving, pushing that floor away. On this one, we'll go all the way up. So I go here, and then I drag. Woo. Let's teach you your hip to get you up and off the ground. Let's do our Turkish get-up, just because Shirley practiced it so much.
No, I didn't practice it so much.
What?
Oh, it's bad.
Describe the Turkish get-up. Bad.
Describe it. Okay.
Other than that.
Bend,
There you go.
yeah. Bend knee, bend, kettlebell. This is a kettlebell.
I'll do it with you, so
Right.
you guys.
A real kettlebell or a virtual
A
kettlebell?
Virtual kettlebell.
Okay.
Today has been virtual
Kinda
kettlebell.
lean in this way, come up on your heel,
Oh, okay.
bring that leg through,
Oh, gosh.
We'll go through it again.
come up, and up. And then reverse it.
Spin. We like the kettlebell because it can really attack one-sided issues. So I'll break it down again.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to, because I don't know.
This one is
Well, I
online.
noticed it Saturday morning, last Saturday, we had it on YouTube, like a half hour.
Honestly, this first part
And other things.
is the only thing that kind of works together with what we did today. The rest, you can take or leave. We did do the curl up today. And this is actually how Stuart McGill teaches it, with one leg bent. So he'll teach that crunch. Feel like it's stiff in your neck and right in your mid back. The part that's really touching the ground, try to bend right from there. You should feel a lot of work happening in your stomach. That's that nice brace we want, that we're combining with our breath. So yeah, right knee's bent, right hand, we're really reaching up, but I'm still pinning my shoulder blade down to the ground. Shoulder blade down, I'm lifting the head just a little bit. My left arm is out to the side. I'm gonna roll onto my left elbow. So the shoulder comes up, the hip comes up. Pretend like you got a 100-pound kettlebell in your hand. Really reaching, driving that up, eyes on your hand. We go up to our hand. I'm pushing through my right heel, and I'm bridging, squeezing my glutes. I'm gonna spread that left leg underneath me, and then I'm gonna lift that left hand up. We do a little windmill action. Getting my weight.
Oh, no, that's not happening.
Stick with the core, that first part. And we did this on Saturday, we just broke it down. I think we did it on last Thursday too. Just that working through this portion. So let's switch to the other side. Up. We just did 4 times. We just squeezing the abs, coming out of the elbow, slowly peeling the spine back down. Big breath in, head lift, rolling up onto the elbow. This alone can really help the back. Also, as we get older, we struggle getting up and off the ground. And then on your back, it's hard to roll over. You can kind of feel it. That's why I like flat tables versus the tables that bring you up and down. Because I notice if somebody can't roll over onto their back, things are not good. So here, go up to the hand. Bridging and kicking that leg through. Using the hip, just like we did. Very similar. Pulling that hip behind
Why am I
me.
stuck on my arm?
What are you doing here?
What am I doing?
So, yep, there you go.
Oh, my knee can be on the ground.
Yes.
I was trying to do it with my
Other hand in the air. Same as the forward leg. I'm pulling my weight onto my hip, just like we did before. The only difference is now I've got my opposite hand in the air, or if you like, I reach for this one. And I just pretend like I'm grabbing this imaginary rope, and I'm holding myself. Now, you don't have to do this little spin move I did. I just started with that.
Our spinning days are over.
No spinning. All right. Oh, we've beaten the Turkish kid up to death in the past 2 weeks, so we'll leave that there. Well, let's just practice a light kettlebell swing. Nothing crazy. This is 16 pounds. Put together what we've done today. What do you want to show? 10-pounder?
Yeah.
Well, there's a 2-pound weight, or a 3-pound weight, and a 5-pound weight over there.
Let's start.
This isn't going over the head, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Where's it going?
We're going to start with, and the workout this week will be called swing, because it's doing 100 different types of swings. Not 100 types of swings, but 100 reps. But a combination of different swings. So this is the first one. It's called swing to ground. So the same setup we used. Probably a better angle for you. Hinging, grabbing on, pulling, pushing the ground away, just like we were doing with that one leg. So we did it. We can kind of get one hip to work more, because we want both hips on the same page. Spending a lot of time here. I like this. You just get out of pain in my low back. I like having a little bit of a weight so I can just drive my hips back, but also up. We're grabbing here, holding on that hamstring, finding that tension. So now I'm pulling my head back, just like in the 8-point plank, we're driving the back of our head up towards the ceiling. I'm going to bash my table here. So watch me. Pulling my head up, pulling until it shoots up. And each time I'm following that kettlebell through, hips are reaching back, and then I'm squeezing to press it. And the breath is a I'm not really using my arms a lot. Like we talked about this swing. This swing I do use the arms. Here it's just all hips. Hips are just pushing. I can pretty much
You're
let
not
this.
rounding,
What?
but you're not tucking.
Try not to tuck.
Yeah.
Less squat, more swing.
Less.
We don't want the knees. It's the opposite. Knees aren't going out like this.
You want them in.
As I'm coming in, I'm squeezing.
Squeeze the knees toward each other.
So a lot of people, yeah, they like to do this little squat thing. There's the squat swing. It's not what we're doing right now. And anyways, I totally did this wrong. This is the wrong exercise. We advanced too quickly. Put it back down. I just got excited. And that's the reason why. When you start swinging, people get lost. That's why I like this swing to ground idea, because it is a squat, so we love this. Starts in the hinge, same setup. Big breath. I'm doing a swing. Maybe watch me for this first one. Swinging, and then when I go down, I bend the knees. Then I have to reset every time. Pulling those hips back. I want you to get this set up good. That's why we're doing this. Set up strong. Big breath in. One swing. Then I set it down gently. I'm loading the hips. See that like spring? Like, pull those hips back. Then bend the knees, drop it down. See how that looks. Keep going. Pull those hips back every time. Nice stiff spine. Reset. I'll get some of that. Making me nervous. I'm more worried about the kettlebell than you.
Don't want to break your kettlebell.
Remember that, just like we were here with the spear, your forearms should come in contact with your legs. If you're too low, if you're swinging way too low, A, you're going to hurt your back. If the hands are higher, the low back's protected. So I don't want to be down here because then we're talking about it.
Okay.
So a little higher than you think you need to go. It's okay. Your forearms should be smacking into your legs. When we did this spear, same idea. If anything, the weight.
So do I lift up to that position before I swing?
Watch me. Yes, but not really. I'm here. I'm lifting. Yeah, it's going to come in, but I'm not doing a deadlift.
Okay.
Especially not out here. You don't want to deadlift that in front of you. I'm setting up the motion because as I'm lifting, it's swinging.
Okay.
That part's a little complicated. But a lot of people do that. They want to like deadlift it here. Which is kind of right. I think they're just afraid of the kettlebell. Don't be afraid of the kettlebell. Your hips should follow it. I've lifted it. I've taken all the tension out of my arms. I'm not rowing this kettlebell. There's no bend happening in my elbows. I'm pulling with my spine. See how my arms get really straight? I give them like cables. You don't have arms anymore, you just have cables. Pulling your head back, and they never bend. I don't want to say that. Some people do bend here just to keep the kettlebell a little closer to themselves. Because yeah, as you get far away, it can bother your back. So you can't do that little T-Rex. We do the same thing with the spear. Something will reach too far. Like they're doing the foul, but they're reaching way too far, they have to go back. So T-Rex arm position. It shouldn't end where it starts. It shouldn't end underneath you. So I'm swinging and then I'm perfect distance. Maybe like about 2 feet. Go around the back to do it. Do a little knee bend. I like the knee bend because we're taking that bend out. If anything, the knee should maybe even come behind the heel a little bit. See that? Same thing with the founder, right? Exact same position. That's why I love combining these two ideas. Work on our low tall hands. Grab your kettlebells, pick it up with a nice squat. Just hold. It's way too heavy. Only with one hand. We'll work on flaring our lats, bringing that kettlebell out away from your leg, breathing. This is helping strengthen our spine. Weight's pulling down on
This
us.
is too heavy.
We're lifting.
I feel like it's pulling my shoulder down and I can't straighten.
Use your other body. You want a 10-pounder? You lift heavier stuff all the way.
I know, but not, I don't go like this. I feel like my shoulders are so weak.
We're not raising it up here, it's just enough. Getting broad, like you're carrying a big bucket of water. I'll even reach out with my other hand, so I can counterbalance. Breathe.
That's easier.
Let's do some marching. Raise one leg. Raise the other leg. Time with your breathing. Ooh, that's the tough side. switch sides. Same setup. Trying to almost round our back a little bit. Don't extend. Tighten the front of the body. Open up the back. And then if you need it, there's some margins. Why are we stiffening the back here?
So I don't fall over.
Oh yeah. What Shirley fears the most, the butt tuck. Like when we go upstairs. A lot of us will reach forward the head, pelvis tucks underneath. So when we're doing that leg raise, stiffen. The weight actually helps. Helps stiffen your spine. So we're raising, we're just hip. Can you feel it? Feel how your spine wants to flex. As you come up, you want to do some rounding. Fight that. Good, good. It's a good little shoulder relaxer. Just roam the world here. Don't drop it on your foot. This will test your quick feet. In the Wild West, they're shooting at your feet. Drop kettlebells all the time. I never drop it on my foot.
That'd be really bad.
We need to buy new mats because these are not very shock absorbent mats. Those are not very shock absorbent kettlebells either.
No.
This will break the floor. The floor won't break this. Grab it by the horns. There you go. Right face it. Around the world, around the head. Same thing. Stiffen the spine. 3 one way. 3 the other way. Keep the core tight. Keep your neck tight. The kettlebell go around you. Oh. We'll do a little rolling to end on. Put your kettlebell down. The muscles that work against us are the hamstrings. As we're going back into the swing, they tend to fight us. Let's roll those out. That's 1. If you really hate your life, you can use the wooden one. So there's a pattern I've noticed with people, maybe don't take this to the bank, but left side, the inner hamstring tends to be tight. So that'll be the pelvis. That's more shifted forward, but it's actually a little more tucked. So notice everything gets really tight here, and sometimes they get pain here too. So try to roll more on the inner side. Most people, when they roll, they're always here on the outer side. So let's skip that today. Try just more inner thigh, which is a little trickier to get to. I need to put some nails in this. So pin that down. And the one disadvantage here is this isn't as high as yours. Rolling right up to your sit bone. That's where it attaches.
I took a pool noodle, wrapped a towel around it with a ribbon, and that's what I used, so it's squishy.
This is
I
good
got one of these.
anyways, because we're working on turning that hip in. Because that's the other thing that happens on the left side, is that hip loves to turn out. I know I said the pelvis goes forward, but like I said, the hip's going to do the opposite. It's kind of what it looks like in a standing position. Is the pelvis will pull forward, this hip will turn out. So when we're rolling the inside, we're turning that left hip in. And then most people tend to put more weight on the outside of their right foot. So with the other things over there. So this hip flexor is just holding on for dear life then. Because it wraps into that hip, and that hip's forward, so it's, it'll feel really tight. I often dig into it on people, because it relieves pain, but ultimately it's weak. Everything we do today, we're using that. And we did some like single arm motions. We didn't do single arm swings, but that's another way. That's why I like single arm swings. The kettlebell, especially those styles, it's meant to be a one-handed thing. Starting with double just so we get it. When you're doing one-handed, that's when you're kind of switching, you're hitting one hip over the other. So I can go a little deeper with my left. deep with my right. Opposite story over here, it's the lateral hamstring. So roll that one on the right. Now you can let this hip turn out. Roll it. Both piriformis muscles can be angry. Sometimes it's really hard to tell which one is tighter. But it makes sense if the left femur is rotating externally, your left is going to be tighter. So after you've rolled that, just about 60 seconds, not spending a minute here, put your left butt cheek on the roller. My left hand is down because I'm rolling, I'm rotating, putting that left cheek on there. Then bring this leg up. The left leg over top of the right.
Okay.
Just think backwards, or listen to my words. Roll. See if you can find that piriformis. Who knows? Piriformis runs from your sacrum, your tailbone, to your trochanter, which is your femur, and it spins it. Now, just because it's painful doesn't mean it's tight, so let's check the other side. Different over here. Might even feel injured. We don't want to roll injured muscles. At least not too much. That's what I'm saying. Minute max.
Yeah, I usually get sciatica on the right.
And it doesn't even with sciatica, it doesn't mean it's tighter on the right.
Sometimes.
Piriformis is just, it's always blamed because you can clamp on sciatic nerve, but it could be the muscle that's overstretched due to dominance on the other side. So they call that piriformis long syndrome. So the right can be clamping on the sciatic nerve, doesn't mean necessarily tight on the other side. So listen to what you feel. You want to feel like a bulkiness, like that's rigid, that's short. It might feel tight, but it might be more taut, like a band. It's overstretched. Because the short muscle, it's doing its job. It's strong. It's the muscle that's taut. It's not.
I need an anatomy course.
Well, you see, that's a game to you.
I know, but it has to be written down. I have to sit there.
Let's see it. You still have to use your imagination, but we can release
Yeah.
the stretches and attaches too. Don't want to roll your mid back while we're doing this. But did you notice the difference left to right? So piriformis runs through this notch, which is called the sciatic notch because that's where your sciatic nerve runs through. So these little yellow things, they're actually called here, run through there, go down the leg. Piriformis also runs through there as on its way to this hip. That's your trochanter. So it could, normally what it is it's the left side that's tight. And that's pulling your sacrum this way. That was down a little bit because the femur is lower. So that hamstring catches right there. That's your sit bone. But on the inside, we have this other little ligament, your sacrotuberous ligament. There's an extension of your hamstring. So we'll see that sacrum shifted lower. And it'll be really rigid through here. So I'll take my little bony thumb and I'll dig it in there a lot. That's why I'm doing that. Tighter inner hamstring, but the roller does the same thing. So I'd say roll hamstring on the inside more, piriformis on the left side more. It's pretty much the typical pattern, but what it can cause is sciatic on the right. If this is pulling so hard, it's pulling your tailbone over there. This one's like, ah! So it's getting tension. It's ramming into that sciatic nerve. Now, not all sciatica is piriformis syndrome. In fact, most doctors are even unaware of what piriformis syndrome is. They just say, oh, you have sciatica. And I don't think sciatica is a disc herniation or some sort of thing up here. It's much easier to fix a muscular imbalance than a disc issue.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was a little girl, my grandmother made most of my clothes.
You're still a little
And
girl.
she would, measure from the ground 1 foot up, and you'd lift up the dress and it'd be down like this.
Well, yeah,
Lopsided.
that can cause a
Like
shorter
that,
leg.
sir.
Depends on the position.
I think it's unfixed. I come here so much, it's gotta be fixed.
That's the problem. If we don't address the weaknesses, we're always just foam rolling. I used to have a foam roller in the adjacent like chiropractic room. After every patient, I'd be so compressed, I'd quick go to the room and be like, oh God.
Yeah.
But I would just crunch it. It doesn't even pop like it used to. Back in the day, it was like painful. And it was like an explosion. And then I'd go adjust somebody, and I'd have to do it again. So I was stretching things. The foam roller was good. It felt good for 5 minutes. But then the compression came back because we never addressed the weakness. Fix the weakness. So this stuff is good. You can even do this probably mid-workout is what I'd say is the best. You don't want to, same idea with rolling or mobilizations. You don't really want to mobilize stuff before you warm up. You want to stretch a cold muscle, same idea. So do a little warm up, doesn't have to be crazy. Then you're doing all this rolling stuff, band mobilizations, ankle mobilizations, hip mobilizations, shoulder mobilizations. So you can have mobility for when you do your kettlebell swings wherever you go. So you add strength on that. Because if you just foam roll like I was doing and walk away, pointless.
Not strengthened.
All right, we'll let YouTube go here. Glad we got some of that for the folks that didn't